Howdy, Dennis Bradford here. Let's think some about being, feeling, and doing better. What do you really want? How will you get there? Here's the surprising truth about most people. They don't really know what they want. Their goals are so vague as to be useless. You can confirm this for yourself by doing an informal survey of your friends and acquaintances. Just ask them what they really want, and then listen. You'll almost certainly get answers like, I want a soulmate, or I want financial freedom, or I want to be happy. So, there's no point, for example, in wanting to be happy. What does that even mean? What steps would one take to become happy, or even just happier? How would one identify success? That goal, like many others, suffers from terminal vagueness. On the other hand, if you're living poorly emotionally and your goal is to live normally emotionally, that's sufficiently specific so that you could develop a good plan to get you there. If, as is more likely, you're living normally emotionally and your goal is to flourish emotionally, or live well emotionally as sages do, that's also sufficiently specific so that you could develop a good plan to get you there. It's not, though, just a matter of mastering a single tactic. As we've seen, it's more complicated. Powerful unwanted emotions need to be dissolved indirectly. That can happen using either the emotional humility or the peacefulness process method and applying it to a specific emotion. That specific emotion needs to be identified, singled out, selected as the subject of either method. That, though, isn't always easy to do. Some people are emotionally obtuse and cannot even recognize an emotion when they're experiencing one. Even for those who are emotionally skilled, identifying an emotion isn't always easy. For example, two emotions can become linked, as when, for example, fear precedes and follows anger. In fact, emotions only infrequently occur in isolation, one at a time. Furthermore, different emotions can alternate in rapid sequence or blend together. Also, we may have a blind spot that is inhibiting us from identifying an emotion that's troubling us. Why? We may not want to admit to feeling a certain emotion. Furthermore, one negative emotion can often stimulate another, such as when we become angry at ourselves for, say, becoming afraid. Whether or not you work with someone to help you evolve to your next level, it's best to have a plan for doing so. Trying to obtain a result haphazardly is not the way to go. A good plan for you will include 4 essential steps. First, you should be clear about where you are now. When it comes to emotions, are you living poorly? Or are you just suffering normally, riding the emotional roller coaster up and down? Second, a good plan should have a reactive technique that works well for you. Whether you use emotional humility, peacefulness process, or some other method, it's important that you know how to treat an unwanted emotion after it arises. Unless you are a fully enlightened sage, they will arise. When they do, what should you do? Third, a good plan should have a proactive technique that works well for you. Whether you use aliveness awareness, zazen, or some other method, it should be practiced daily. Why? Recall that the core of every emotion is a for-me judgment, namely, this is good for me, or this is bad for me. The more you practice properly and persistently, the more you weaken the for me. The more you weaken the for me, the more you weaken the ego. The more you weaken the ego, the less emotional distress you'll endure. That reduction in emotional distress is automatic. There's nothing else required. Of course, having a good teacher or coach can be extremely helpful. So can having a reliable training partner. Even if you lack either of those, at least recruit a friend to be an accountability partner to keep you practicing at those times when you don't feel like it. Purifying the mind successfully requires discipline as well as persistence. Get all your buts your excuses out of the way. Fourth, a good plan for you should have a realistic goal. An unrealistic goal would be, for example, for you to want never to have to experience any unwanted emotion. That's such a lofty goal that it may be that no humans have ever reached it, or if some have, it's extremely infrequent. Yes, living more like the wise, living more like sages live, is a great goal, but don't assume that means that they never feel unwanted emotions. It's been my experience that they feel unwanted emotions less frequently than the rest of us. Furthermore, when they do experience them, they typically are of much less intensity and duration. So, if you adopted the goal of never having to suffer severe emotional distress for more than a day or two for the rest of your life, that'd be, at least as far as I'm concerned, an excellent realistic goal. That would be living well emotionally, flourishing emotionally. If you want that, if you want to live well emotionally, there's nothing external stopping you. Fifth, there are other features that a good plan for you should have. They may not be critical, but they are extremely helpful. If you're interested, I discuss them in my The 5 Secrets to Making Fast Changes for Good. It's available as a relatively inexpensive paperback on Amazon. The point of your having a good plan is to help you to evolve to your next level. Nobody can do that for you. A good plan is like a good coach or teacher. It's an important aid. It's not a substitute. Don't create a plan and then just be satisfied with good intentions. Practicing properly and persistently is what will improve the quality of your life. There's no substitute. When developing a plan that will work well for you, it's helpful to put it in context. It's helpful to prioritize your values. Let's consider that. I agree with Dr. Hawkins and many other sages who think that doing is more important, more advanced than just having. Similarly, being is more important, more advanced than just doing. If so, it's wise to shift attention from having to doing to being. There's nothing more important than creating a better life. Not only will you live better, but unless you are a hermit, you'll automatically be showing others how to do so as well. There's much more about that in subsequent videos. Let's end emotional distress.